Hi, welcome back to Elements in Focus. Today we're talking about emergency fund best practices. I've got Grant Thompson, who's a certified financial planner. Grant works out of our Anderson office as well as up in Muncie. If you are new to Elements in Focus, this is where myself and one of the advisors on our team breaks down our 5 critical elements. And today we're going to be in the element of your life after work. So Grant, we get into this conversation a lot. It's like, hey, what's a reasonable emergency fund? What are some best practices? Do I need to have an emergency fund? Where do I keep the emergency fund? So I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's hear your thoughts on emergency funds.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so like Aaron said, we get a lot of questions about this. First thing, what is an emergency fund? So, an emergency fund is just money that you have set aside for emergencies. It's not complicated. A lot of times, people they want to know how much, they want to know where to put it, and so just a good rule of thumb, you want to look at 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved away. And so, what I like to do personally for my own finances, I will start out with $1,000 and then I build it up from there. And so, when I look at 3 to 6 months, there's a couple things that you want to pay attention to. So, the first thing is, are both spouses working? Okay. So that's one thing for me in my personal situation. My wife is a stay at home mother, so it's just me working. So I need to be closer to that 6 month range than the 3 month range because there's not two incomes coming in. The second thing that you want to look at are going to be things like, hey, do I have kids? Do I have other liabilities that I might need to take care of? And so that's something that you want to save for and look at. A lot of times we get this a lot in our meetings. Where do I put my emergency fund? There's definitely a lot of schools of thought to this, but I would say first and foremost, we do not want to invest our emergency fund. Okay, so we don't want to do that. Now that's going to be different than like a high yield savings or a money market account. That's perfectly fine. And in fact, I would tell you if you do have that money set aside, you do need to have it in a high yield savings or in a money market. What that's going to do, it's just going to give you some growth on that money while it's sitting there. It's still liquid, so you can still get to it. So we don't want to put it in like a bank CD or something like that. Definitely don't want to subject it to market loss. Okay. A lot of folks will say, hey, put that in a brokerage account, let that grow. I would not do that. If you're going to need that money in the next 18 months, do not put it in a brokerage account. Okay. So that's kind of the basics of what an emergency fund is. Now, as far as what that looks like, if you are a little bit older and you have a lot of assets saved up, you may not need to have as much as 6 months of living expenses. I would say if you're on the younger end of the spectrum, you absolutely want to be able to do that. I can tell you personally, being a little bit younger myself, it's not easy, and I know it's not easy, but it's very important that you work toward that. And I promise you, with the correct plan in place, you can get there and you can get to that 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So, Aaron, any extra thoughts that you had on that or anything you'd like to add?
I like the fact that you started pretty basic, right? So getting that first $1,000 saved, it's one of those principles Dave Ramsey teaches is getting that first baby step met, and that's setting aside that $1,000. The reason that's important for folks that are younger is because you don't want to go to the credit card to put your emergencies on, right? So if you have at least a little bit saved up, you can go to that emergency fund and hopefully offset it. When you're trying to build up that 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, you're almost looking at like the base of a mountain looking up, going, okay, I've, make $5,000 a month. And so 3 months worth of expenses are $15,000 saved, and 6 months is $30,000 saved. Holy cow, how do I get there? Well, it just takes a chunk at a time. So, how do you eat an elephant, Grant? It's one bite at a time, right?
Yep.
And so it's being diligent and systematic and setting up that savings and making sure that you're not spending it. So that is one great principle Dave Ramsey talks about and helps people when they're reducing and trying to get out of debt, is making sure that you have a stable foundation if an emergency occurs and you're not going to credit cards to have to pay for those expenses. It's hard to do. We understand. As you mentioned, if you're more wiser in your years and you've had more time to save and accumulate, the likelihood of having to have that 3 to 6 months saved up inside of an actual savings account is less important. But you still want to be able to access the funds from a liquidity perspective. So it's important to build that emergency fund. It provides a sense of relief when things come up and you're not going to the credit card. If you have questions, if you want to just look at an overall budget, or making sure that you have your standard of living on track, preparing for retirement, our advisor team is here to help. Reach out to us, 800-928-4001. Go to our website, yourlifeafterwork.com. If you have a specific question for Grant, you can reach out to us at talk to FEG at yourlifeafterwork.com. If you're new and you want to make sure you're on track, please schedule a complimentary Next Steps meeting. That's where one of our team members will sit down with you, review your unique journey, and we'll give you things to think about today, things to think about in the future, and if we decide to partner together, a written plan for what FEG will do for you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a blessed day.